In 2020, a college student named Jason Miller lived alone in a small apartment in Austin. Jason wasn't the type of person who usually scared easily. He enjoyed horror movies, late-night gaming, and staying up until 3 a.m. texting his friends. His closest friend was a guy named Mark. They had known each other since high school and talked almost every night through normal text messages on their phones. But one night, Mark received a message from Jason that would later become the last text message anyone ever received from him. It started around 11:52 p.m. Mark was lying in bed, scrolling through his phone, when Jason sent him a text that said, "Hey, are you outside?" Mark frowned when he read it and replied immediately, "No, why?" Jason responded almost instantly, "Someone just knocked on my door." That wasn't unusual because Jason lived in a large apartment building where people often knocked on the wrong door by mistake, so Mark didn't think much about it. But then Jason sent another message saying, "They knocked 3 times, but when I looked through the peephole, nobody was there." Mark laughed slightly and replied, "Probably someone messing with you." But Jason didn't reply for a few minutes. Then another message arrived saying, "It just happened again." Mark sat up in bed and asked, "What do you mean again?" Jason typed back, "3 knocks, exactly the same." Jason finally decided to check the hallway. He opened the door and looked outside. The hallway lights were on and the carpeted corridor stretched empty in both directions with no one there. Jason sent Mark another message saying, "No one's here, but I swear someone knocked." Mark suggested maybe it was another apartment door echoing down the hall, but Jason still seemed uneasy. Jason suddenly remembered something. His apartment building had a security camera facing the hallway, so he walked downstairs to check the small monitor near the lobby. A few minutes later, he texted Mark again, saying, "You need to see this." Mark replied, "See what?" Jason sent a screenshot from the camera. The image showed the hallway outside Jason's apartment with a timestamp of 11:59 p.m. and in the image, someone was clearly standing in front of Jason's door, a tall figure wearing dark clothes, but the person's face was completely blurred, almost like a shadow. Mark stared at the image and replied, "That's creepy. Did you see them leave?" Jason responded, "No, that's the weird part. They just disappeared." Mark felt slightly uneasy now, but tried to stay calm and said, "Maybe they went into another apartment." Jason replied almost instantly, "There are no other doors near mine." A few minutes passed with no messages. Then suddenly Mark's phone buzzed again. Jason sent another text saying, "They're knocking again." Mark checked the time. It was 12:14 a.m. Jason sent another message immediately after saying, "But this time it's louder." Then another message appeared saying, "Mark, the knocking isn't coming from the hallway anymore." Mark typed quickly asking, "Where is it coming from?" Jason replied with a message that made Mark's stomach drop. "It's coming from inside the apartment." Mark sat frozen, staring at the screen as Jason sent another text saying, "Someone is knocking on my bedroom door." Then another message saying, "But I live alone." Mark tried calling him. The phone rang, but Jason didn't answer. Instead, another text appeared saying, "The door handle just moved." Then another message came seconds later. The final message Jason ever sent, "Don't open the door." After that message, Jason never replied again. Mark kept calling his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. The next morning, Mark contacted the police. Officers went to Jason's apartment in Austin. They found the apartment completely empty with no sign of Jason and no signs of forced entry, and the bedroom door was still locked from the inside. Jason Miller was never seen again, but according to police records, his phone was still lying on the floor next to the bed, and the last text message on the screen still read, "Don't open the door." In 2019, a young woman named Sarah Collins worked late shifts at a restaurant in Los Angeles. Most nights, she finished work around midnight, and her apartment was about 20 minutes away, so she usually called a ride using Uber. It was safe, fast, and she had done it hundreds of times before. But one night, the ride she took home would become the last time anyone ever heard from her. It was 12:37 a.m. when Sarah finished her shift. She stepped outside the restaurant and opened Uber. Within seconds, a driver accepted her ride request. The driver's name was Daniel. The car was listed as a black sedan. Estimated arrival time 3 minutes. Sarah sent a quick text to her roommate Emily saying, "Head heading home now?" And Emily replied with a thumbs up emoji. Everything seemed completely normal. A few minutes later, the car arrived. The license plate matched the one shown in the app, and Sarah got inside the back seat. The driver didn't say much, just a quiet hello before starting the car. Sarah didn't think much about it because some drivers prefer silence. So she put on her headphones and started texting Emily again. About 10 minutes into the ride, Sarah sent Emily another text saying, "This driver is taking a weird route." Emily replied asking, "What do you mean?" Sarah wrote back, "We're not on the normal road. It looks like he turned toward the hills." Emily felt slightly uneasy reading that and replied, "Maybe he's avoiding traffic." But Sarah sent another message saying, "There's no traffic at this time." As the car drove further, the street lights became fewer and fewer until the road was almost completely dark. Sarah looked up from her phone and glanced outside. They were driving through a narrow road surrounded by trees, which was definitely not the normal route to her apartment in Los Angeles. Sarah decided to ask the driver, "Excuse me, is this the right way?" The driver didn't respond and kept driving silently. Sarah quickly texted Emily again saying, "He's not answering me." Emily immediately replied, "Call me right now." But before Sarah could call, her phone buzzed again with a notification from Uber that said, "Your ride has been cancelled." Sarah frowned because the car was still moving and she was still inside it. She typed quickly, "Emily, something is wrong. The ride just got cancelled, but I'm still in the car." Emily replied instantly, "Get out of the car." Sarah looked around nervously. The road outside was completely dark, with no houses, no streetlights, nothing except forest. Suddenly the driver spoke, his voice calm and almost emotionless. "You shouldn't have noticed the route." Sarah felt her stomach drop. She grabbed her phone and started recording. Then she sent Emily another message saying, "He just said something weird." Emily called her immediately, but Sarah declined the call and instead sent one more text saying, "I'm sharing my location." Emily opened the location link, but the map showed something strange. Sarah's phone wasn't moving anymore and was stuck in the middle of a remote road outside Los Angeles. Then Emily received another message, Sarah's final text message saying, "He stopped the car." A few seconds later, another message appeared with just 3 words, "He's opening the door." After that message, Sarah never replied again. Emily tried calling her over and over, but the phone went straight to voicemail. The next morning, police searched the location where the phone signal stopped. They found Sarah's phone lying beside the road, but there was no sign of Sarah, no driver, no car, nothing. Police later discovered something disturbing. There was no driver named Daniel registered on Uber that night, and the license plate Sarah entered into the app belonged to a car that had been reported stolen months earlier. In 2021, 2 best friends named Kevin and Matt planned a weekend camping trip outside Denver. They wanted to escape the city and spend a night in nature, so they drove to a remote forest area outside Denver. The forest was huge with miles and miles of trees and almost no people around, just the sound of wind and animals in the distance. Kevin arrived first and set up the tent while waiting for Matt to arrive. But as the night went on, Matt received a series of text messages from Kevin that would become the last messages anyone ever received from him. Around 8:42 p.m., Matt's phone buzzed with a text from Kevin saying, "Dude, this place is creepy." Matt laughed when he read it because Kevin always scared easily. So he replied, "Relax, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Kevin responded quickly saying, "No, seriously, I keep hearing something in the woods." Matt assumed it was probably an animal because the forest had plenty of wildlife. So he told Kevin not to worry. But Kevin sent another message a minute later saying, "It sounds like someone walking." Matt replied, "Probably a deer or something." But Kevin typed back immediately, "No, it sounds like footsteps." A few minutes passed, and then Kevin sent another text saying, "I think someone is out here." Matt frowned when he read that because the camping area was supposed to be almost empty, but he tried to stay calm and replied, "Maybe another camper." Kevin answered quickly, "Then why are they hiding?" Kevin sent Matt a photo. The image showed the dark forest with trees everywhere and a small beam of flashlight shining between them. At first, Matt didn't see anything unusual, but then he noticed something between the trees, a tall shape standing perfectly still and watching. Matt's phone buzzed again, and Kevin sent another text saying, "They're getting closer." Matt immediately called Kevin, but the call didn't connect because there was no signal. Kevin sent another message saying, "My flashlight just went out." Matt started driving faster toward the campsite because he was only 10 minutes away now. Then another message appeared saying, "Matt, something just called my name. Matt felt a chill run down his spine and replied, "Who called your name?" Kevin answered, "I don't know. It sounded like you." Matt's heart started racing and he texted back, "I'm almost there." Kevin replied immediately, "Don't come." Matt typed back asking, "Why?" Kevin's response came seconds later saying, "Because you're standing outside the tent." Matt slammed on the brakes because he was still miles away from the campsite and there was no way he could be there. Matt tried calling Kevin again, but there was still no signal. Then Kevin sent one final message, the last message anyone ever received from him. "If that's not you outside, then who is it?" When Matt finally reached the campsite, the forest was completely silent. Kevin's tent was still there, along with his backpack and camping gear, even his phone lying on the ground. But Kevin himself was gone with no footprints, no signs of a struggle, nothing, just an empty forest. Kevin Carter was never seen again, but the most disturbing part of the story came later when police checked Kevin's phone and discovered something strange. The final message he sent to Matt was actually typed 2 hours after his phone lost signal in the forest, which means someone else may have sent that message.